Tonight in Minneapolis, celebrations.
Tonight is a really good night.
And disappointment.
We need to go harder next time, and we need to just continue to fight.
In the first city election after George Floyd's murder, voters rejected the ballot measure that sought to restructure policing. The question asked voters if the city's charter should be amended to eliminate the police department and replace it with a broader Department of Public Safety. Advocates who spent months collecting more than 20,000 signatures to get the question to voters, seeing progress in defeat.
We asked Minneapolis residents to imagine something different, even though that might be scary and it might be hard, and 60,000 Minneapolis residents said yes.
If we become deflated and if we don't look at the nuance of what's happening in this moment, it will. So it's up to us.
Opponents said the amendment was a step toward defunding the police, saying it wasn't necessary or helpful for true reform. One of those opponents, Mayor Jacob Fry, who was reelected.
We're sending a message that real and serious government and true change in our society is not about a hashtag or a slogan.
Cynthia Brown has lived in Minneapolis for 35 years. Although she helped collect signatures to get the question on the ballot, she was undecided up to the last moment.
I was going back and forth with my pen, trying to decide which way I was going to vote.
Voters rejecting the amendment, but many still calling for change.
I still feel strongly reform the police department, not get rid of the police department.
Shaq Brewster joins us now from Minneapolis. This vote was closely watched and did make national headlines, but was the outcome a surprise to the people of Minneapolis?
You know, Tom, many people came into the election day not really knowing what to expect. You know, there was not that much public polling in advance of this vote. The last public poll that we saw was in September, and at that point, you had the people who were voting against this or voting for this change ahead, about 49%. But since then, you saw a big shift. You saw folks come out in opposition to this. You saw television ads in opposition to this. And then even last week, the chief of police, Chief Arredondo, he had about a 30-minute press conference where he completely condemned this proposal and said it would be unworkable and advocated that folks voted no. So we didn't really know what to expect, and when we saw that result yesterday, it really did surprise some people, but it was what others were expecting.
You know, if we're fair about this, the movement, it started so strong in the wake of the death of George Floyd, and then it appears it sort of faded.
Right. That's exactly the case. And I mean, you get a sense of that from that last person you heard in the story, Cynthia Brown. She was one who got petitions. She gathered petitions to get this question on the ballot, but then turned undecided and then ultimately voted no and made that decision in the voting booth. You know, the common theme that I heard from folks who voted no is not that they didn't want reform. Even the mayor who opposed this amendment, he is calling for reform. He made that clear in his acceptance speech or a victory speech even today. The concern that you had was that there was that uncertainty over what this new department would look like. In a city where there's crime rising right now, murders will possibly reach a record at the end of the year, there's a deep fear that you have among some residents and a concern that if that's not spelled out, what are the functions of this new department? If that wasn't spelled out, then they weren't willing to take the risk and support that. And that was the common theme. I think the bottom line is there still likely will be reform in Minneapolis. It just won't be in the form of this amendment to the city's governing document.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.